This is the National Desk, America's News Now. Live from the nation's capital, this is the National Desk, America's News Now. Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Breaking news as we come on the air in just minutes. Former President Donald Trump will formally accept the Republican presidential nomination in Milwaukee. Our team is standing by to watch this highly anticipated moment, as it is the first time Trump has spoken publicly since an assassination attempt just 5 days ago. Ryan Smith joins us at the live desk with new information about the shooting as calls increase for the Secret Service leader to step down. But first, Atra Al-Nashar joins us live in Milwaukee on this fourth and final night. Atra, you have been there since day one. We know Eric Trump speaking now, but just tell us what the mood of the convention center feels like as we wait for the former president to take the stage.
Well, folks are certainly looking forward to hearing from former President Trump in his first major speech. He's sitting about 30 feet away from me with his children. Melania Trump is not sitting in the VIP section right now, though she has been photographed backstage. But Dee Dee, I want to share with you, I've gotten a copy of what looks to be most of the former president's speech. He is going to, as I can see from his remarks in front of me, try and take a more measured tone. I'm going to read you a couple excerpts here. Thanks for rolling with the punches. I know this is live TV, but this is new information. He is going to say, quote, "I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America." We've not heard Trump say things like that before. That's usually something that President Biden says, that he will be everyone's president. But we are certainly, I can tell you, going to see a different tone. Again, assuming he sticks to what's on the teleprompter. As for the shooting on Saturday, he's going to describe what happened, but he says he's going to say, "I'll tell you what happened, and you'll never hear it from me a second time because it's too painful to tell." So it's certainly going to be an emotional speech off the top, but I can also tell you from what we have in front of us and other reporting as well, he is not once going to mention the name Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. Again, totally different than what you normally hear from Trump. Right. He's also going to get into the meat and potatoes of the issues, immigration, inflation, I can see in front of me, foreign policy issues, energy and the like. It's going to be quite a long speech. I'm scrolling through it right now. His slot is 490 minutes long. The folks I'm talking to fully expect him to fill those full 90 minutes. I'm also, and again, forgive me, I'm reading much of this for the first time. I can see, while he's not going to mention Biden's name, he is going to mention, he's going to criticize, I should say, some of the decisions he's made, like the withdrawal from Afghanistan, his energy policies and things like that. But he is talking about these more unifying themes. So it'll be interesting. Again, will he stay on teleprompter? What kind of tone will he make? And how will the audience react to it, right? This is not apparently going to be the same Trump that they're used to seeing. Will they be receptive, and will they follow his lead, potentially, of a lower political temperature?
Yeah, we can hear the cheering in the background, Atra. And to your point, since this started, the momentum, the energy, it has gradually built up to this moment. Earlier this week, just days ago, his second oldest son said that we will expect to see, quote, a new persona, and that is consistent with those new details that you shared with us. Of course, tonight it's a return to Trump's original slogan theme. What does this tell us about the direction of the party? You touched on, Trump as the person, but what does this say about the campaign and where we go from here?
Yeah. So, two things mainly. One, I want to point out what we've been hearing from the speakers really in the last two nights. Every single person who's spoken has shared a personal detail or story about Trump, the private man. They're trying to paint him as a caring, generous person, not so much talking about policies or big, legislative ideas he might have if he took office. And that is clearly because they know there are a lot of voters out there who are turned off by his persona, by his aggressive rhetoric that we've seen in the past 9 years. It is a very clear strategy. Even, just as Eric Trump was coming on stage, I saw his daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, call a couple of their kids over from a few rows back so that they could be sat on the former president's lap as this speech was going on. They are very mindful of the optics of this moment and the opportunity of this moment while the national spotlight is on them and while President Biden is now in isolation. He's got COVID, and many in his party are calling on him to drop out. And the second thing, Didi, if you'll indulge me, is the theme of the night being Make America Great Again. Tonight doesn't so much feel like a Republican National Convention. It feels like a Trump convention. The entire night is about Donald Trump. Of course, folks are talking about grievances, about policy differences and things like that, but this is a night about uniting around one man. Keep in mind, there's a Republican former president who's still alive who is not here. George W. Bush is not here. Mitt Romney is not here. Mitch McConnell. A lot of the establishment Republicans that have made up the fabric of the GOP in the last few decades, they are not part of this celebration. It is very much a new MAGA moment that is encapsulating the night, and the man at the center of it we'll be hearing from in just about half an hour or so. I'm estimating that they've been running behind schedule, but he just left the VIP section, so that indicates he's going backstage getting ready to speak.
Yeah, to be expected. These things never run on time. But Atra, yes, we are repeatedly seeing that white bandage over his ear, and I think a powerful moment when it panned to people on the floor wearing that bandage as well. The solidarity, I mean, this is the RNC, something to be expected. But to your point, the real test is, what does this mean to people that are on the fence? What does this mean, for the greater party in general? The speakers earlier tonight, they made their remarks very personal about Trump, but not even just tonight. The entire week, we heard from his grandchildren. We heard from, his sons, the personal stories that has been really significant this week. What stood out to you?
Yeah, and I've heard from some delegates, too, saying, usually when as a reporter, you approach a Trump supporter and you ask their thoughts. Usually they're very, very excited, eager, sometimes a bit, reluctant to talk to media. And the folks I talked to today seemed much calmer. Of course, it might have just been the few that we spoke to, but they said, they're taking this moment seriously of the need to be kinder to one another and to tone down the temperature, that, there is a realization that most of America is somewhere in the middle. It might not be as polarizing as it seems. Of course, there are plenty of folks here who are yelling, fight, 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 yelling, fire Joe Biden, things that haven't changed since Saturday. But there is certainly a softer tone being taken by some. It's just an open question of whether that's reflected in Trump. If he sticks to these remarks, that's what we'll see, but there's no guarantee.
Well, we will have some answers just moments from now. As you mentioned, Trump gearing up for the speech, headed backstage. Atra El-Nashar live from Milwaukee. We'll check in with you soon. Thank you.
Here at the Live Desk tonight, we've just learned police in Palm Beach, Florida, now increasing security around Mar-a-Lago starting this weekend. Major road closures will be going up surrounding Trump's property through at least the November election. Still tonight, though, no motive tied to the assassination attempt, but law enforcement sources now say the gunman climbed onto an air conditioning unit to access the roof. They are now working on theories as to how he hid the rifle. Although Crooks was flagged as a suspicious person, CBS News now reporting tonight that the Secret Service allowed Trump on that stage because they didn't know he was carrying a weapon. Brand new video to show you here tonight, showing the moment the Secret Service motorcade brought Donald Trump to that local hospital in Butler, Pennsylvania. People in the lobby stunned, of course, naturally so, when they saw Trump walking in. Take a listen.
Oh my God. Oh, Jesus. There he is. Oh, there he is. There he is. There he is. There he is. Oh, thank God. He's walking. He's walking.
5 days later, blowback continues for Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle, seen here. She was actually chased down here by GOP senators during last night's convention. She gave Trump a full briefing while they're in Milwaukee, and we could learn much more next week. She is due to testify on Capitol Hill during a hearing investigating that attempted assassination.
New tonight, a procession was held today in advance of a public viewing for Corey Comparator, the man who died Saturday at former President Donald Trump's campaign rally in Butler County. Hundreds of people gathered in Freeport, Pennsylvania, where Comparator went to high school to honor and pay their respects to the former firefighter and father of two. Private funeral services for Comparator will be held on Friday. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has privately told President Biden that he can't defeat Donald Trump in the election. Pelosi told Biden that polling data shows him losing and that he could ruin Democrats' chances of winning the House. Biden reportedly responded by saying he has seen polls that show he can win the 2024 election. Despite a growing number of Democrats calling for Biden to withdraw from the race, Vice President Kamala Harris was on the campaign trail in Fayetteville, North Carolina today. Harris looking to highlight the differences between the Biden administration's policies and that of former President Donald Trump. She calls it the most consequential election of our lifetime.
Do we want to live in a country of freedom, compassion, and rule of law, or a country of chaos, fear, and hate?
Some Democrats are urging the president to withdraw, potentially shifting Harris to the top of the ticket. Biden has insisted he is staying in the race. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited Rafah in southern Gaza today. It was his first visit to the area after an Israeli military assault caused nearly 1 million people to leave for other areas of Gaza. Netanyahu says that he will speak of the heroism that he saw among troops in Rafah when he speaks to both houses of the U.S. Congress next week. He is still expected to meet with President Biden, although his recovery from COVID-19 will take priority. Israeli lawmakers are rejecting the creation of an independent Palestinian state. Israel's parliament overwhelmingly passed a resolution firmly opposing Palestinian statehood today. The resolution passed 68-9. It says the establishment of a Palestinian state would pose existential danger to the state of Israel. The United States government has supported a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict for decades.
A Palestinian state that is standing side by side with Israel. We believe that is the only way to advance an enduring peace.
And the Palestinian Authority, which governs the West Bank, condemned the vote in Israel's parliament. New tonight, federal prosecutors are dropping charges against some of the rioters who stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Others, like members of the Proud Boys, are getting reworked plea deals. The news comes weeks after the Supreme Court restricted how the Justice Department can pursue obstruction charges. Roughly 259 defendants are facing the count, which makes it a crime to obstruct an official proceeding.
Back for President Biden here, this time off the campaign trail. A federal appeals court has now blocked his new student loan relief plan known as SAVE. The move now impacts about 8 million people who had already signed up for that program. It came under fire due to how much borrowers pay back. It's based on how much money they make. For more than half in the program, they have a $0 monthly payment. We're told the Department of Education is now getting in touch with the affected borrowers on this. The department's secretary coming out swinging today against that ruling. Listen.
I'll be damned if I'm going to step down. I'll be damned if I'm going to slow down my fight for these people that I just spoke to. We must continue fighting. There are middle-class, working Americans that need this. This system is broken.
Now, the White House has requested that the Supreme Court allow the program to continue on. We wait for that. Just today, though, the Biden administration also forgiving more than $1 billion in student debt for about 35,000 public service employees, primarily people like teachers and firefighters.
With several parts of the U.S. under extreme heat threats, experts warn that those hot temperatures can damage medications and also ramp up side effects of many common medications. The National Desk, Jeff Harris, joining us. Not something that you typically think about, Jeff, but important. You spoke with experts earlier. Which medications do they say are most at risk?
So, Didi, they say the extreme heat can really do damage to any medications that need to be refrigerated, like insulin, or even certain weight loss drugs that are injectables. But other medications can also be compromised.
Madeline Furch is a clinical pharmacy specialist at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. She tells us extreme heat affects medications that are refrigerated the most because it makes them degrade faster.
Because they're supposed to be typically kept in a much cooler environment.
But she says extreme heat also poses a threat to liquids and tablets.
So when they are exposed to much higher temperatures, they're at risk for degradation as well.
But that's not all. Extreme heat could also affect certain weight loss drugs.
It depends on how long those exposed, but those medications would be at risk too, for sure.
A professor in the School of Pharmacy at the University of Connecticut, C. Michael White, tells us extreme heat might also impact how you respond to certain medications like beta blockers.
Because they help to reduce blood pressure. In the way that they reduce blood pressure, they also increase the risk that people would pass out more.
So he recommends never leaving your medications outside, and if they're getting delivered, make sure you're home.
Tracking it so you know when it's going to come, and you can go out and meet the delivery person and be able to pick up your medication right then.
When it comes to travel, packing your medication in a checked bag isn't a good idea either. It's warmer under the plane, and White says once you're in the air, that temperature fluctuation can impact the integrity of that medication. Reporting for the National Desk, I'm Jeff Harris.
The national debt is over $34 trillion and is expected to worsen. I'm with Janae Bowens from the Fact Check team. Let's start, Janae, with how much debt will the U.S. gain this year?
Yeah, Dee Dee, so I've been looking through a recent report from the Congressional Budget Office that shows the U.S. is expected to add $1.9 trillion to the debt this year. That's up from the original estimate of $1.6 trillion.
Several factors behind the increase, of course, including the wars overseas.
Exactly. So things like aid to Ukraine and Israel, increased Medicaid spending, and President Joe Biden canceling $100 billion in student loan debt. The CBO says the debt is supposed to top $56 trillion by 2034.
And let's talk more about the impact to Americans. What can we expect?
Yeah, so I've read a few different analyses. I like this one from the Bipartisan Policy Center. Now, it says debt is a big problem because it could prevent us from responding to the next public health emergency or threat from an enemy. Now, it could slow our economic growth, which then could spill over to the labor market, leading to slower wage growth. Now, these are all possibilities, and Dee Dee, it's a complicated situation, but it's clear the rising debt has a lot of disadvantages.
Yeah, no doubt about that, but again, several layers to this. Janae, thank you, and Janae will be back in a few minutes with the major drivers of our growing national debt.
Wildfires continue to scorch tens of thousands of acres out west. The new warning tonight about more to come this summer, and the national resources now used to fight these flames.
Taking a live look inside the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. As you can see, Kid Rock taking the stage any moment. Former President Trump will take the stage to accept his party's nomination for president and to make his first public speech since the attempt on his life. You're watching the National Desk, America's News Now.
From the city of truth, you know I jab, stab, and knock critics back.
As of today, wildfires have now burned through more than 1 million acres across the U.S. And with extreme heat still scorching much of the country, there remains a high potential for more large wildfires to emerge. The National Interagency Fire Center increasing its preparedness to its highest level yet, PL5. Now, this greenlights a larger scale operation for wildfire control, like for hotspot crews and air tankers, smoke jumpers, and communications equipment. One of the hardest hit states right now, Oregon, where crews are right now battling 8 massive wildfires. The largest, the Cow Valley Fire in Malheur County. It is about 77% contained. That's the good news, but so far it's burned through more than 133,000 acres. Locals there now fearing its effects, both economic and environmental, will last for years to come.
New information. China has ended its nuclear arms control talks with the United States. China's foreign ministry says this halt is due to America's weapons sales to the island of Taiwan. State Department spokesman Matthew Miller called China's decision unfortunate and accused China of following Russia's lead. Miller calling communication between the two essential.
Is essential to the United States. It's essential to the American people. It's essential to the global economy. And the United States, of course, is inherently wrapped up in the global economy.
China claims Taiwan is part of its own territory. This comes just over a month after the Biden administration said the U.S. may have to deploy more nuclear weapons to pause growing threats from Chinese and Russian arsenals. Tonight, closing arguments are set for tomorrow in Russia for the espionage trial of American journalist Evan Gershkovich. He was arrested in March of last year while on a reporting trip in Russia. Russian authorities say he was spying for the U.S., a claim both his employer, the Wall Street Journal, and the U.S. government deny.
Major recall now with even more urgency behind it tonight. The dangerous ingredients just discovered in these mushroom products that have been sold nationwide. Well, testing now revealing these recalled diamond shrooms here. Edible candies likely contain toxic levels of harmful chemicals that come from magic mushrooms. That now, according to the Virginia Poison Control Center. Several of the labels now boast about the legal ingredient known as muscimol, which is known to alter your mood. But in reality, some have also the ingredient psilocin mixed in, which is a Schedule I drug that has powerful psychedelic effects. It's not just the Diamond Shrooms brand that's an issue here. Scientists also testing others, including the two you see right there on your screen. They could contain dangerous alternative ingredients, including DMT, which could lead to an opioid addiction. Now, health officials warn this market is not regulated and should be avoided because it's important for consumers to know exactly what they are ingesting and the potential impact to their health.
A new report released today suggests women in the U.S. are facing a growing number of threats when it comes to their health care access. The report revealed states in the Northeast scored the highest, Massachusetts topping the list in providing the best health care system for women overall. The poorest performers are spread across the southern part of the country. Mississippi scoring lowest overall, followed by Texas, Nevada, Oklahoma, and Arkansas.
A popular cleaning tool now under a nationwide recall due to dozens of people getting burned. How to get your money back, we explain next, right here at the Live Desk. Bissell now recalling more than 3 million of its handheld steam cleaners due to burn hazards. So far, more than 150 people have actually been hurt by it. And according to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the steam cleaners can shoot hot water or steam directly onto people's skin during use or while it's heating up. The recall now covers multiple models sold since 2008. Here they are. The model numbers are located on the product rating label, similar to this one. You can find it at the bottom of the unit. The impacted products have the words Steam Shot or Power Steamer printed on the side. Popular retailers like Walmart, Target, and Amazon all sell the product. Consumers now being urged to stop using it and contact the company for either a $60 credit or a full refund.
Coming up on the National Desk, losing support. Calls for President Joe Biden to drop out of the presidential race growing louder by the minute. The key Democrats now on the fence. Plus, tragic allegations surrounding a housing provider for unaccompanied migrant children. How the Department of Justice is taking action. And later, a $450 million boondoggle. Why NASA's moon mission suddenly went south. You're watching the National Desk, America's News Now.
This is the National Desk, America's News Now.
She should be fired. She should have been fired Saturday night.
Mounting pressure on the Secret Service following the attempt on Donald Trump's life. What we're learning about the agency's handling of the former president's rally.
It is something, of course, that remains top of mind for the United States.
Staging a comeback, the Pentagon's new warning about a terror group and how Republicans are using global threats as a campaign message.
This is common sense.
Devastating and will take away from ordinary Americans.
And Donald Trump making his historic third nomination acceptance speech 5 days after the attempt on his life. Let's take a live listen in. And we are hearing the music. We are being told that Donald Trump, as you see right there, he is walking on the stage 5 days since the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, the attempt on his life. You can see the bandage on his ear. This moment, a different moment than what we saw in 2016 when he took the stage. The fog, the music, the Queen song, a very stoic Trump as he is walking to clapping and about to make his speech just moments from now. This on the fourth and final night of the RNC, certainly a historic night. We haven't heard much about his injury to his ear, but the white bandage, as you are seeing right there, has been visible throughout the week. We do not know much about this injury.
And Dee Dee, what's interesting as we watch him clapping there on stage again, the third time that he is addressing the RNC as its chosen leader in the nomination process. We have learned tonight also from a reporter on the ground there, Atra El-Nashar, saying that he will talk in detail, certainly more detail than what we've heard in the last few days about that shocking assassination attempt from back on Saturday. He said that he will go into it one time and one time only because it was so shocking and tragic to, oh, here we go. It looks like he's about to start and giving his remarks. Let's listen in.
And hearing, we have heard that he has rewritten his speech,
very much.
And as he takes the podium,
Thank you very, very much. Wow. And thank you, Dana. Thank you, Kid Rock, sometimes referred to as Bob. And thank you, Lee, right from the beginning. Thank you very much. What a talent. What a beautiful, beautiful song. Thank you. Friends, delegates, and fellow citizens, I stand before you this evening with a message of confidence, strength, and hope. 4 months from now, we will have an incredible victory, and we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. Together, we will launch a new era of safety, prosperity, and freedom for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. The discord and division in our society must be healed. We must heal it quickly. As Americans, we are bound together by a single fate and a shared destiny. We rise together or we fall apart. I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America. So tonight, with faith and devotion, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we will do it right. We're going to do it right. Let me begin this evening by expressing my gratitude to the American people for your outpouring of love and support following the assassination attempt at my rally on Saturday. As you already know, the assassin's bullet came within a quarter of an inch of taking my life. So many people have asked me, what happened? Tell us what happened, please. And therefore, I will tell you exactly what happened, and you'll never hear it from me a second time because it's actually too painful to tell. It was a warm, beautiful day in the early evening in Butler Township in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Music was loudly playing, and the campaign was doing really well. I went to the stage, and the crowd was cheering wildly. Everybody was happy. I began speaking very strongly, powerfully, and happily, because I was discussing the great job my administration did on immigration at the southern border. We were very proud of it. Behind me and to the right was a large screen that was displaying a chart of border crossings under my leadership. The numbers were absolutely amazing. In order to see the chart, I started to, like this, turn to my right and was ready to begin a little bit further turn, which I'm very lucky I didn't do, when I heard a loud whizzing sound and felt something hit me really, really hard on my right ear. I said to myself, wow, what was that? It can only be a bullet. And moved my right hand to my ear, brought it down. My hand was covered with blood, just absolutely blood all over the place. I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack, and in one movement proceeded to drop to the ground. Bullets were continuing to fly as very brave Secret Service agents rushed to the stage, and they really did. They rushed to the stage. These are great people at great risk, I will tell you, and pounced on top of me so that I would be protected. There was blood pouring everywhere, and yet, in a certain way, I felt very safe because I had God on my side. I felt that. The amazing thing is that prior to the shot, if I had not moved my head at that very last instant, the assassin's bullet would have perfectly hit its mark, and I would not be here tonight. We would not be together. The most incredible aspect of what took place on that terrible evening in the fading sun was actually seen later. In almost all cases, as you probably know, and when even a single bullet is fired, just a single bullet, and we had many bullets that were being fired, crowds run for the exits or stampede, but not in this case. It's very unusual. This massive crowd of tens of thousands of people stood by and didn't move an inch. In fact, many of them bravely but automatically stood up looking for where the sniper would be. They knew immediately it was a sniper. And then began pointing at him. You can see that if you look at the group behind me. That was just a small group compared to what was in front. Nobody ran, and by not stampeding, many lives were saved. But that isn't the reason that they didn't move. The reason is that they knew I was in very serious trouble. They saw it. They saw me go down. They saw the blood and thought, actually, most did, that I was dead. They knew it was a shot to the head. They saw the blood. And there's an interesting statistic. The ears are the bloodiest part. If something happens with the ears, they bleed more than any other part of the body. For whatever reason, the doctors told me that. I said, why is there so much blood? He said, it's the ears. They bleed more. So we learned something, but they just, this beautiful crowd, they didn't want to leave me. They knew I was in trouble. They didn't want to leave me. And you can see that love written all over their faces. Incredible people. They're incredible people. Bullets were flying over us, yet I felt serene. But now the Secret Service agents were putting themselves in peril. They were in very dangerous territory. Bullets were flying right over them, missing them by a very small amount of inches. And then it all stopped. Our Secret Service sniper, from a much greater distance and with only one bullet used, took the assassin's life, took him out. I'm not supposed to be here tonight. Not supposed to be here. No. Thank you. But I'm not. And I'll tell you, I stand before you in this arena only by the grace of Almighty God. In watching the reports over the last few days, many people say it was a providential moment. Probably was. When I rose, surrounded by Secret Service, the crowd was confused because they thought I was dead, and there was great, great sorrow. I could see that on their faces as I looked out. They didn't know I was looking out. They thought it was over. But I could see it, and I wanted to do something to let them know I was okay. I raised my right arm, looked at the thousands and thousands of people that were breathlessly waiting, and started shouting, "Fight, fight, fight." Thank you. Once my clenched fist went up, and it was high into the air. You've all seen that. The crowd realized I was okay and roared with pride for our country like no crowd I have ever heard before. Never heard anything like it. For the rest of my life, I will be grateful for the love shown by that giant audience of patriots that stood bravely on that fateful evening in Pennsylvania. Tragically, the shooter claimed the life of one of our fellow Americans, Corey Comparator. Unbelievable person, everybody tells me. Unbelievable. And seriously wounded, two other great warriors. I spoke to them today. David Dutch and James Copenhaver, two great people. I also spoke to all three families of these tremendous people. Our love and prayers are with them and always will be. We're never going to forget them. They came for a great rally. They were serious Trumpsters, I want to tell you. They were serious Trumpsters and still are. But Corey, unfortunately, we have to use the past tense. He was incredible. He was a highly respected former fire chief, respected by everybody. Was accompanied by his wife, Helen, incredible woman. I spoke to her today, devastated, and two precious daughters. He lost his life selflessly, acting as a human shield to protect them from flying bullets. He went right over the top of them and was hit. What a fine man he was. I want to thank the fire department and the family for sending his helmet, his outfit, and it was just something, and they're going to do something very special when they get it. But we did something which cannot match what happened, not even close. But I am very proud to say that over the past few days, we've raised $6.3 million for the families of David, James, and Corey, including from a friend of mine just called up. He sent me a check right here. I just got it. $1 million from Dan Newland. Thank you, Dan. And again, when speaking to the family, I told them, I said, well, I'm going to be sending you a lot of money, but it can't compensate. They all said the same thing. You're right, sir. We appreciate so much what you're doing, but nothing can take the place in the case of Corey. And the other two, by the way, they were very, very seriously injured, but now they're doing very well. They're going to be okay. They're going to be doing very well. They're warriors. So now I ask that we observe a moment of silence in honor of our friend Corey. There is no greater love than to lay down one's life. This is the spirit that forged America in her darkest hours, and this is the love that will lead America back to the summit of human achievement and greatness. This is what we need. Despite such a heinous attack, we unite this evening more determined than ever. I am more determined than ever, and so are you. So is everybody in this room. Thank you. Thank you very much. Our resolve is unbroken and our purpose is unchanged to deliver a government that serves the American people better than ever before. Nothing will stop me in this mission because our vision is righteous and our cause is pure. No matter what obstacle comes our way, we will not break, we will not bend, we will not bend, We will not back down, and I will never stop fighting for you, your family, and our magnificent country. Never. And everything I have to give with all of the energy and fight in my heart and soul, I pledge to our nation tonight. Thank you very much. I pledge that to our nation. We're going to turn our nation around, and we're going to do it very quickly. Thank you. This election should be about the issues facing our country and how to make America successful, safe, free, and great again. In an age when our politics too often divide us, now is the time to remember that we are all fellow citizens. We are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we must not criminalize dissent or demonize political disagreement, which is what's been happening in our country lately at a level that nobody has ever seen before. In that spirit, the Democrat Party should immediately stop weaponizing the justice system and labeling their political opponent as an enemy of democracy. Especially since that is not true. In fact, I am the one saving democracy for the people of our country. And very big news, as you probably just read, on Monday a major ruling was handed down from a highly respected federal judge in Florida, Eileen Cannon, finding that the prosecutor and the fake documents case against me were totally unconstitutional, and the entire case was thrown out of court. With all of that publicity, thrown out of court. If Democrats want to unify our country, they should drop these partisan witch hunts, which I have been going through for approximately 8 years. And they should do that without delay and allow an election to proceed that is worthy of our people. We're going to win it anyway, but worthy of our people. On this journey, I am deeply honored to be joined by my amazing wife, Melania. And Melania, thank you very much. You also did something really beautiful, a letter to America calling for national unity, and it really took the Republican Party by surprise. I will tell you, it was beautiful. In fact, some very serious people said that we should take that letter and put it as part of the Republican platform. That would be an honor, wouldn't it? Right, Mr. Congressman? But it captivated so many, so I also want to thank my entire family for being here. Don, Kimberly, Ivanka and Jared, Eric and Lara, Tiffany and Michael, Barron. We love our Barron. And of course, my 10 wonderful grandchildren. You saw a few of them up there on my lap before. And how good was Dana? Was Dana good? I mean, was he good? He was on probably the only vacation he's had in about, maybe ever, because he works, but about 10 years with his wife, very far away. I won't tell you where, but very, very far away, beautiful place. And my people called, and he said, yeah, I won't be able to do it. This is many, many years. I promised my wife I can't do it. And they came in, they said, Dana won't be able to do it because he was my first, second, and third choice. I said, well, you know, that's too bad, but I understand he's away, and that's good. It's good for him. And that was it. About 30 minutes later, she came back in, sir, Dana just called. He's going to do it. And his wife, she said, you can't turn him down. You just can't do it. You have to go. That's a good wife. So he got on a plane. He got here a little while ago. Now he's going to get on the plane in a little while, and he's going to go back home to his wife. But they're great, and I just want to thank her and him and their whole family, because that's not easy. And Kid Rock, same thing. Called, he said, I want to be a part of it. I want to be a part, because, you know, Kid does his great song, Big, Big Monster song. I had no idea. You know, he became a friend of mine over the last 10 years. And he's amazing. Everyone loves him. I didn't even know how big he was. You know, he has rallies, 35, 40,000 people he gets every time he goes out. I think he's making so much money, he doesn't know what the hell to do with it. You want to know? And then we have my other friend, and I've known him so long, and we took that song, and it was a big success, but we made that. I saw a chart of great songs to America. That was #1 on the chart recently, #1. So that's Lee Greenwood, very special, beautiful person. He's a beautiful man. But they all wanted to be here. They called. And how about the Hulkster? How good was he? Is he up? Where is he? Boy, oh boy. You know, they may call that entertainment. I know about entertainment, but when he used to lift a 350-pound man over his shoulders and then bench press him 2 rows into the audience, I say maybe entertainment, but he is one strong son of a gun. I will tell you, I watched it many times. There aren't a lot of entertainers that can do that, right? You were fantastic. Thank you very much. Followed by...
And you have been listening to former President Trump accepting the GOP's nomination for president at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, beginning the speech detailing the attempt on his life, detail by detail, saying, I'm not supposed to be here. God was on his side, acknowledging his wife, Melania Trump, who has not been here at the convention until now. We will have much more still ahead, continuing coverage of Trump's speech and the RNC throughout our newscasts. Find more details on our website, thenationaldesk.com. And we will be back in 90 seconds.
This is the National Desk, America's News Now.
Live from the nation's capital, this is the National Desk, America's News Now. Good evening, I'm Didi Gatton, and former President Donald Trump taking the stage at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. The first time he's speaking publicly after being shot at a campaign rally just last week. Let's take a live listen in.
And a very special thank you to the extraordinary people of Milwaukee and the great state of... Oh, there they are. There they are. You are so easy to spot. And Green Bay's going to have a good team this year, right? They're going to have a good team. They're going to have a good team. Most of the audience doesn't like it, but it's true. You're going to have a very good team this year. And by the way, Wisconsin, we are spending over $250 million here, creating jobs and other economic development all over the place. So I hope you will remember this in November and give us your vote. I am trying to buy your vote. I'll be honest about that. And I promise we will make Wisconsin great again. We're going to make it. Thank you, Mr. Governor. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm here tonight to lay out a vision for the whole nation, to every citizen, whether you're a young or old man or woman, Democrat, Republican, or independent, black or white, Asian or Hispanic. I extend to you a hand of loyalty and of friendship. Together we will lead America to new heights of greatness like the world has never seen before. We were right there in the first term. We got hit with COVID. We did a great job.
And that is former President Trump, of course, speaking for the first time since the attempt on his life, live from the final night of the RNC. For continuing coverage of the Republican National Convention, visit our website, thenationaldesk.com. And early on in the speech, we heard the former president acknowledging the victims of the attempt on his life. The man who lost his life, a procession held today in advance of a public viewing for Corey Comparator, the man who died Saturday at former President Donald Trump's campaign rally in Butler County. Hundreds of people gathered in Freeport, Pennsylvania, where Comparator went to high school to honor and pay their respects to the former firefighter and father of two. Private funeral services for Comparator will be held on Friday. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has privately told President Biden that he can't defeat Donald Trump in the election. Pelosi told Biden that polling data shows him losing and that he could ruin Democrats' chances of winning the House. Biden reportedly responded by saying he has seen polls that show he can win the 2024 election. Despite a growing number of Democrats calling for Biden to withdraw from the race, Vice President Kamala Harris was on the campaign trail in Fayetteville, North Carolina today. Harris looking to highlight the differences between the Biden administration's policies and that of former President Donald Trump. She calls it the most consequential election of our lifetime.
Do we want to live in a country of freedom, compassion, and rule of law, or a country of chaos, fear, and hate?
Some Democrats are urging the president to withdraw, potentially shifting Harris to the top of the ticket. Biden has insisted he is staying in the race. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited Rafah in southern Gaza today. It was his first visit to the area after an Israeli military assault caused nearly 1 million people to leave for other areas of Gaza. Netanyahu says that he will speak of the heroism that he saw among troops in Rafah when he speaks to both houses of the U.S. Congress next week. He is still expected to meet with President Biden, although his recovery from COVID-19 will take priority. Israeli lawmakers are rejecting the creation of an independent Palestinian state. Israel's parliament overwhelmingly passed a resolution firmly opposing Palestinian statehood today. The resolution passed 68-9. It says the establishment of a Palestinian state would pose existential danger to the state of Israel. The United States government has supported a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict for decades.
A Palestinian state that is standing side by side with Israel. We believe that is the only way to advance an enduring peace.
And the Palestinian Authority, which governs the West Bank, condemned the vote in Israel's parliament. New tonight, federal prosecutors are dropping charges against some of the rioters who stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6. Others, like members of the Proud Boys, are getting reworked plea deals. The news comes weeks after the Supreme Court restricted how the Justice Department can pursue obstruction charges. Roughly 259 defendants are facing the count, which makes it a crime to obstruct an official proceeding.
Another setback for President Biden, this time off the campaign trail. A federal appeals court has now blocked his new student loan relief plan known as SAVE. The move impacts about 8 million people who had already signed up for that program. Came under fire due to how much borrowers pay back. It's all based on how much they earn. More than half in the program have a $0 monthly payment. We're told the Department of Education is now getting in touch with the affected borrowers. The department's Secretary of State came out swinging here this afternoon against the ruling. Take a listen.
I'll be damned if I'm going to step down. I'll be damned if I'm going to slow down my fight for these people that I just spoke to. We must continue fighting. There are middle-class, working Americans that need this. This system is broken.
The White House has requested that the Supreme Court allow the program to continue, but also just today, the Biden administration said it is forgiving more than $1 billion in student debt for 35,000 public service employees like teachers and firefighters.
With several parts of the U.S. under extreme heat threats, experts warn that those hot temperatures can damage medications and also ramp up side effects of many common medications. The National Desk, Jeff Harris, joining us. Jeff, you spoke with experts earlier tonight. Which medications do they say are most at risk?
So, Didi, they say the extreme heat can really do damage to any medications that need to be refrigerated, like insulin or even certain weight loss drugs that are injectables, but other medications can be compromised as well.
Madeline Furch is a clinical pharmacy specialist at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. She tells us extreme heat affects medications that are refrigerated the most because it makes them degrade faster.
Because they're supposed to be typically kept in a much cooler environment.
But she says extreme heat also poses a threat to liquids and tablets.
So when they are exposed to much higher temperatures, they're at risk for degradation as well.
But that's not all. Extreme heat could also affect certain weight loss drugs.
It depends on how long those exposed, but those medications would be at risk too, for sure.
A professor in the School of Pharmacy at the University of Connecticut, C. Michael White, tells us extreme heat might also impact how you respond to certain medications like beta blockers.
Because they help to reduce blood pressure, and the way that they reduce blood pressure, they also increase the risk that people would pass out more.
So he recommends never leaving your medications outside, and if they're getting delivered, make sure you're home.
Tracking it so you know when it's going to come, and you can go out and meet the delivery person and be able to pick up your medication right then.
Now, when it comes to travel, packing your medication in a checked bag isn't a good idea either. It's warmer under the plane, and White says once you're in the air, that temperature fluctuation can impact the integrity of that medication. Reporting for the National Desk, I'm Jeff Harris.
The national debt is over $34 trillion and is expected to worsen. I'm with Janae Bowens from the Fact Check team. Let's start, Janae, with how much debt will the U.S. gain this year?
Yeah, Didi, so I've been looking through a recent report from the Congressional Budget Office that shows the U.S. is expected to add $1.9 trillion to the debt this year. That's up from the original estimate of $1.6 trillion.
Several factors behind the increase, of course, including the wars overseas.
Exactly. So things like aid to Ukraine and Israel Israel, increased Medicaid spending, and President Joe Biden canceling $100 billion in student loan debt. The CBO says the debt is supposed to top $56 trillion by 2034.
And let's talk more about the impact to Americans. What can we expect?
Yeah, so I've read a few different analyses. I like this one from the Bipartisan Policy Center. Now, it says debt is a big problem because it could prevent us from responding to the next public health emergency or threat from an enemy. Now, it could slow our economic growth, which then could spill over to the labor market, leading to slower wage growth. Now, these are all possibilities, and Didi, it's a complicated situation, but it's clear the rising debt has a lot of disadvantages.
Yeah, no doubt about that. But again, several layers to this. Janae, thank you. And Janae will be back in a few minutes with the major drivers of our growing national debt.
Breaking tonight here at the Live Desk, Donald Trump on stage at this moment right now addressing the Republican National Convention. He has largely stayed away from any divisive rhetoric so far tonight, but he has just touched on the economy and America's energy sources. Let's listen in.
And they said to me, well, I think that's about it. They weren't going to buy any oil. And they were ready to make a deal. Iran was going to make a deal with us. And then we had that horrible, horrible result that we'll never let happen again. The election result, we're never going to let that happen again. They used COVID to cheat. We're never going to let it happen again. And they took off all the sanctions and they did everything possible for Iran. And now Iran is very close to having a nuclear weapon, which would have never happened. This is a shame what this administration, the damage that this administration has done. And I say it often. If you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States, think of it, the 10 worst, added them up, they will not have done the damage that Biden has done. Only going to use the term once. Biden. I'm not going to use the name anymore, just one time. The damage that he's done to this country is unthinkable. It's unthinkable. Together we will restore vision, strength, competence, and we're going to have a thing called common sense making most of our decisions, actually. It's all common sense. Just a few short years ago, under my presidency, we had the most secure border and best economy in the history of our country, in the history of the world. We had the greatest economy in the history of the world. We had never done anything like it.
Former President Donald Trump right there on stage at the RNC addressing the crowd for the first time since Saturday's assassination attempt. He was talking about the economy just there, also referencing the current administration. We actually just heard him moments ago specifically name and reference President Biden nearly 1 hour into his speech tonight. We had not heard Biden's name or Vice President Kamala Harris's name said by former President Donald Trump once. He said he did it once and he was only going to do it once. We'll continue to monitor that speech tonight right here from the Live Desk. We're back in 90 seconds.
Right now, former President Donald Trump speaking in Milwaukee for the first time since an assassination attempt just 5 days ago. The National Desk, Atra El-Nashar, standing by live in Milwaukee, and we can hear Trump speaking behind you, Atra. We know he started his speech with those vivid details from the assassination attempt. Just now, getting into some of the issues. Tell us, what has he focused on so far in his speech?
Well, first, I want to remark on just the calmer tone the former president is taking. He has been going off script a little bit here and there, but nothing to the caliber that we would typically expect from him. I do want to note earlier we did talk about how he did not plan to say President Biden's name. He said it once, you could tell it was off script, and he said he was not going to do it again. But, you know, the most so far anticipated part of the speech is not about politics. It was his point of view of that shooting in Butler, Pennsylvania. I'll just read you a little excerpt. He said if he had turned his head or hadn't turned his head at one point, the outcome would have been much different. He said he heard a loud whizzing noise, felt something hit him, and then he felt, blood all over his hand. He was talking about how much his ear was bleeding. And then he said, or he started the story out by saying he was only going to tell that story once because it was too painful. Now, right now, what we're hearing from him is veer more toward his traditional route with speeches, which is to contrast what the country he believes was like under his presidency compared to what it is now, getting a stronger reception from the crowd. But there's still a long way to go in this speech. We're about 40 minutes in so far, and it's set to be a 90-minute speech.
I want to stay on tone, Atra. We talked a lot about this week, and the momentum, of course, building. Can feel the energy even just coming through on the TV right now with the cheers earlier tonight. We heard the fight, of course, about to the attempt on his life. But you're there. You've been there all week. What has the tone of the night been?
Every single speaker, Didi, has been trying to tell a story and convey a more personal side of Trump, telling stories about how he is as an employer, as a father, as a friend, because the Trump campaign knows there are a lot of undecided, moderate, independent voters out there who still cannot bring themselves to support Trump because of his personality, because of his rhetoric. Taking offense to things he said, both in this campaign, but in his last two campaigns. So they are very much trying to seize on this national spotlight to try and shift the tone, but also shift people's perspective of him. At one point, Lara Trump actually summoned a couple of her kids over so that they could be positioned and sat near him and on his lap while his son Eric Trump was speaking. And then Trump made a point in his speech to say, "Did you see my grandkids? They were sitting on my lap." So it's a very intentional play here by the Trump campaign to make him seem more like an accessible person, less like this celebrity, a millionaire, a firebrand that we've gotten to know over the last 9 years. We'll see if that makes a difference, if folks at home, undecided voters, are receptive to it.
And it is important to note, earlier tonight, Trump said he's running to be president for all of America, not half of America.
Yep.
Really emphasized, all of America. And that is consistent with, reinforced by those images that we're seeing, the reference to his grandchildren. You're right, he made a note to say that. So we'll continue to listen on, keep us posted on what you hear. Atra El-Nashar reporting live for us tonight from Milwaukee. Thank you.
Thanks.
Police in Palm Beach, Florida are increasing security now right there around Mar-a-Lago starting this weekend. Major road closures will go up surrounding Donald Trump's Florida property through at least the November election. Still no motive in the assassination attempt tonight, but law enforcement sources now say the gunman climbed onto an air conditioning unit to access the roof. They are now working on theories as to how he had hid the rifle for so long. Although Thomas Crooks was flagged as a suspicious person, CBS News now reporting that the Secret Service allowed Trump onto the stage on Saturday because they did not know he was carrying a weapon. Brand new video to show you tonight the moment the Secret Service motorcade brought Trump right here to that local hospital in Pennsylvania. Understandably so, people in the lobby, they were stunned when they saw the former president walking in. Take a listen.
Oh my God! He got his head out of his chest. Oh Jesus! There he is.
Oh, there he is. There he is. There he is.
There he is. Oh, thank God. He's walking.
He's walking. He's walking.
And blowback continues for Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle. She was chased down right here by several GOP senators during the convention last night. They were shouting questions at her repeatedly. Now, she gave former President Trump a full briefing while in Milwaukee last night, and we could learn much more come next week, just in a few days, when she testifies on Capitol Hill in a hearing investigating the attempted assassination.
While President Joe Biden is self-isolating because of COVID, multiple reports indicate members of his party are increasingly isolating him. As the National Desk Matt Gelka reports, the pressure for Biden to end his campaign might be coming to a head.
A bombshell report from Axios. Democrats saying in private the pressure on Joe Biden to end his campaign could cause the president to drop out as soon as this weekend. The party's concerns center around the president's age and fitness to serve another term, and also the potential liability he'd be on down-ballot races. Biden was asked about what could cause him to drop out in an interview with BET News.
If there had some medical condition that emerged, if the doctors came to me and said, you got this problem, that problem.
The president's team again said he was staying in the race on Thursday.
Our campaign is not working through any scenarios where President Biden is not the top of the ticket.
Democrats have seen brutal polling for Biden recently. An Emerson poll this week had Donald Trump increasing his lead over Biden in 7 swing states. If we keep the results from 2020 aside from those 7 swing states in the poll, and they all break for Donald Trump, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Nevada, that is a 312-vote Electoral College landslide for Trump, and it's maps like this that Democrats are panicking about. Other national polls and models show Biden beating Trump in November. It has Democrats in a tight spot.
There's no obvious solution that solves the basic problem or all of the problems that Democrats are making. They can solve them, but it's going to take some time.
65% of Democrats say Biden should drop out, with top Democrats in the House and Senate reportedly bringing their concerns directly to the president. The Washington Post reports an influential voice on the left, former President Barack Obama, has told his inner circle Biden needs to think about the viability of his campaign, maybe the biggest voice in the growing chorus of anxious Democrats. For the National Desk in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka.
New information, China has ended its nuclear arms control talks with the United States. China's foreign ministry says this halt is due to America's weapons sales to the island of Taiwan. State Department spokesman Matthew Miller called China's decision unfortunate and accused China of following Russia's lead. Miller calling communication between the two essential.
Is essential to the United States. It's essential to the American people. It's essential to the global economy. And the United States, of course, is inherently wrapped up in the global economy.
China claims Taiwan is part of its own territory. This comes just over a month after the Biden administration said the U.S. may have to deploy more nuclear weapons to pause growing threats from Chinese and Russian arsenals. Closing arguments are set for tomorrow in Russia for the espionage trial of American journalist Evan Gershkovich. He was arrested in March of last year while on a reporting trip in Russia. Russian authorities say he was spying for the U.S., a claim both his employer, the Wall Street Journal, and the U.S. government deny. State Department Deputy Spokesman Vedant Patel emphasizing the U.S. believes Gershkovich should be immediately released.
We have been clear from the get-go that Evan did nothing wrong and should not have been detained. To date, Russia has provided no evidence of a crime and has failed to justify Evan's continued detention.
Arrests of Americans in Russia have increased with a breakdown in relations between Moscow and the U.S. If found guilty, Gershkovich faces up to 20 years in prison. Russian courts convict more than 99% of defendants.
Wildfires continue to scorch tens of thousands of acres. The new warning tonight about more to come this summer and the national resources being used to fight those flames. Next, right here at the Live Desk. As of today, wildfires have now burned more than 1 million acres nationwide, and with extreme heat now scorching much of the country, there remains a high potential for more large wildfires to emerge. The National Interagency Fire Center increasing its preparedness now to its highest level yet. PO5, this green light's a larger scale operation for wildfire control, like hotspot crews, air tankers, smoke jumpers, and communications equipment. One of the hardest hit states, Oregon, where crews are now battling 8 massive wildfires at this moment. The largest there, what you're seeing on your video on the screen here, Cow Valley Fire. It is about 77% contained, but it's burned through more than 133,000 acres. Locals there now fearing its effects, both economic and environmental, will last for years to come.
A health alert tonight. A new report released today suggests women in the U.S. are facing a growing number of threats when it comes to their health care access. The report revealed states in the Northeast scored the highest. Massachusetts topping the list in providing the best health care system for women overall. The poorest performers are spread across the southern part of the country. Mississippi scoring lowest overall, followed by Texas, Nevada, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. By the numbers, the average rate for a 30-year mortgage fell again this week, hitting the lowest level since mid-March. According to mortgage buyer Freddie Mac, the rate fell to 6.77%, down from 6.89% last week. A year ago, it averaged 6.78%. Experts say the drop is due in part to expectations the Federal Reserve will cut its benchmark rate in September, with signs of cooling inflation.
Breaking here at the Live Desk, Donald Trump on stage at the RNC, his third bid for the White House. Let's listen in live.
I'm going to protect Social Security and Medicare. Democrats are going to destroy Social Security and Medicare because all of these people, by the millions they're coming in, they're going to be on Social Security and Medicare and other things, and you're not able to afford it. They are destroying your Social Security and your Medicare. Under my plan, incomes will skyrocket, inflation will vanish completely, jobs will come roaring back, and the middle class will prosper like never, ever before, and we're going to do it very rapidly. But no hope or dream
Donald
we
Trump
have
on stage
for
there at the
America
RNC
can
in
succeed
Milwaukee,
unless we
talking
stop
about
the
Social Security. He also talked on the economy tonight, saying that inflation did not exist during his presidency, drawing a sharp contrast between his administration and Biden. Well, that is not exactly true. It was much lower than under the Biden administration, but inflation was still there. It was at 1.4% when Trump left office. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
As we come back on the air, a dire warning from the Department of Defense about the terror group, the Islamic State. Top officials say ISIS is attempting to reform following several years of decreased capability. The National Desk, Christine Frizzell reports the news comes as Republicans hit out at the botched Afghanistan withdrawal.
Riley McCollum. Dylan Marola. As the names of the 13 service members killed at the Kabul airport in August 2021 were repeated by the audience, Gold Star family members argued they felt more supported by the former president than the current one.
Donald Trump knew all of our children's names. He knew their stories.
Republicans once again blaming President Biden for the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan, which ended the war. Biden has argued he was only carrying out the deal signed by his predecessor, Donald Trump.
There was only a cold reality of either following through on the agreement to withdraw our forces or escalating the conflict and sending thousands more American troops back into combat in Afghanistan.
But following images like this, President Biden's approval rating dramatically fell and never really bounced back. Global threats have catapulted back into the spotlight following a brand new report from the Pentagon, warning that the terror group ISIS is in the midst of a resurgence, on track to double the amount of attacks from last year. ISIS just claimed responsibility for an attack at a Shiite mosque in Oman, and according to the Pentagon, has claimed 153 attacks in Iraq and Syria between January and June of this year.
It is something, of course, that remains top of mind for the United States, which is why you have our mission in Iraq and Syria to continue that fight against ISIS.
From that fight to the ones playing out overseas, Russia's war in Ukraine and Israel's in Gaza, mounting challenges for whomever is in charge in the future. I'm Christine Frizzell for the National Desk, America's News Now.
Instagram is now changing its Notes feature. The move went to help your posts reach more followers. This new feature lets you leave notes directly on Reels or feed posts, reacting in real time and allowing you to see reactions from others while scrolling. According to Meta, followers are more likely to see a post or reel when a note has been added. For those of you leaving us tonight, thank you for watching. Have a great night. Coming up next year on the National Desk, losing support. Calls for President Joe Biden to drop out of the presidential race growing louder by the minute. The key Democrats now on the fence. Plus, tragic allegations surrounding a housing provider for unaccompanied migrant children. How the Department of Justice is taking action. And later, a $450 million boondoggle. Why NASA's moon mission suddenly went south. You're watching the National Desk, America's News Now.
This is the National Desk, America's News Now.
Live from the nation's capital, this is the National Desk, America's News Now. Good evening, I'm Dee Gatton, and as we come back on the air, growing pressure on President Biden tonight to bow out of the 2024 race. More top Democratic leaders joining the list of party members today, concerned he can't win in November. Let's get straight over to Ryan Smith at the Live Desk with new details on his slipping support, Ryan.
Democrats continue to blitz President Biden with both direct calls for him to step down as well as messages behind the scenes that ending his campaign is becoming more and more inevitable. The latest Democratic defection coming from U.S. Senator John Tester of Montana, only the second U.S. Senator to publicly do so, and Maryland Congressman Jamie Raskin, a key member of the House's January 6th committee. In a letter dated July 6th, obtained by the New York Times today, Raskin urged Biden to reconsider, warning that the stakes of the November election are simply too high. Quote, the hard questions that have been raised about your mental and physical stamina are not just medical and scientific questions now. They are also political questions because both political leaders and tens of millions of voting citizens have formed judgments based on the events of the last few weeks. CNN also reporting tonight that even some senior ranking members within the White House, as well as campaign officials, now privately believe Biden must drop out, saying the next 72 hours are crucial in a potential change of course here. This as he is off the campaign trail tonight, isolating at his home in Delaware after testing positive for COVID-19.
Donald Trump reportedly met with the director of the Secret Service at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. This comes as more details continue to emerge regarding the security breakdown before the attempted assassination, and the situation appears to be getting worse for the agency. Here's the National Desk, Kayla Gaskins.
Republicans calls for the director of the Secret Service to be removed.
She should be fired. She should have been fired Saturday night.
Growing louder.
What does it take to get fired by Joe Biden? It was an absolute security catastrophe.
I'm prepared this morning to call on President Biden to fire to Director Cheadle.
Tensions running high after GOP senators say top Secret Service and FBI officials ignored their questions on private briefing calls held Wednesday on the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump.
Kimberly Cheadle was on that call.
Yes.
The call was cut as the questions in the queue were lining up.
That's right.
The senators confronting Director Cheadle at the RNC.
This is exactly what you were doing today on the call. Stonewalling. No shame, no concern.
She can run, but she cannot hide.
On the calls, lawmakers were given a timeline of events. At 5:10, law enforcement identifies the shooter as a person of interest. At 5:52, snipers spotted the gunman on the roof. At 6:02, security allows Trump to take the stage.
Take a look at what happened.
At 6:12, the shooter opened fire. Director Cheadle also slammed for the excuse she gave ABC News as to why snipers were not on that rooftop.
That building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. And so, there's a safety factor that would be considered there, that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof.
FBI officials gained access to the gunman's laptop. He reportedly also looked up the dates of the Democratic National Convention, as well as the Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. The FBI still says they have yet to find any indication the gunman had strong political views that motivated the attempted assassination. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting for the National Desk, America's News Now.
Shocking accusations tonight against the country's largest housing provider for unaccompanied migrant children. The DOJ now alleging, quote, severe and pervasive sexual abuse by the very people paid to take care of them. Live look over Austin, Texas tonight. That's where Southwest Key Programs is based. The lawsuit here by the DOJ states that employees, including supervisors, raped, touched, or solicited sex and nude images of those children. Southwest Key operates 29 migrant shelters, 17 in Texas, 10 in Arizona, 2 in California. Children who live in these shelters range from 5 years old to 17. The DOJ says the abuse has been going on for nearly 10 years now. In one harrowing case, according to the lawsuit, a youth care worker took an 11-year-old boy to a hotel for several days and paid the minor to perform sexual acts. The lawsuit states children were threatened with violence if they reported that abuse. So far, Southwest Key has not issued any kind of response.
A National Guardsman accused of leaking classified documents is now facing charges in military court. Jack Teixeira has already pleaded guilty under the Espionage Act in now federal court. According to the Air Force, he will also face the military court for disobeying a direct order and obstructing justice. Teixeira's civilian sentence is in September, but his court-martial trial date has not been set. A horrific crash that killed 6 high school girls 2 years ago has the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board urging parents to educate their children on the dangers of driving after using marijuana. The final report on the tragic accident was released today, and it revealed the crash was likely caused because the 16-year-old driver was impaired by recent marijuana use. The NTSB says both teens and adults need to better understand the risk of driving under the influence of marijuana. Soon you could start to see more drones in the sky, specifically drones carrying AEDs to emergency situations. Experts say drones can deliver the life-saving equipment faster than first responders driving to a scene. The National Desk, Jeff Harris, joining us. Just the visual here, Jeff. Many public safety and health organizations nationwide, they are turning to drones in emergency situations.
Emergency situations, Dee Dee, many of which are cardiac arrests. According to the American Heart Association, for every minute that passes without medical intervention, the odds of survival go down 10%. According to CBS News, starting in September, a county in North Carolina will start using drones carrying AEDs to cardiac arrest calls. A study found that it takes an emergency medical services unit 7 minutes on average to arrive on scene following a 911 call. Experts say drones could reduce that time by 4 minutes. In this specific North Carolina county, if a call comes in suspecting cardiac arrest, a pilot can then dispatch the drone.
Whether it's deliver a life-saving device, take video, warn the SWAT team about what they might be happening before they can see it. I think drones are really a great addition, and we're going to see more and more of it.
A study published in The Lancet compared response times between drones and ambulances for suspected cardiac arrest. Researchers found that drones beat the ambulance 2/3 of the time, but it's not just AEDs. Rescue personnel are also using drones in other emergency situations as well, like finding people who wander away from nursing homes, dropping emergency flotation devices to people who are struggling to swim, and also pinpointing the location of a burning car.
Former President Donald Trump on stage at the RNC more than 1 hour into his speech. Let's listen in live.
Russia took nothing. We defeated 100% of ISIS in Syria and Iraq, something that was said to take 5 years, sir. It'll take 5 years, sir. We did it in a matter of a couple of months. We have a great military. Our military is not woke. It's just some of the fools on top that are woke. I got along very well. North Korea, Kim Jong-un, I got along very well with him. The press hated when I said that. How could you get along with him? Well, you know, it's nice to get along with somebody who has a lot of nuclear weapons or otherwise, isn't it? See, in the old days, they'd say, that's a wonderful thing. Now they say, how could you possibly do that? But no, I got along with him.
Donald Trump tonight on stage in Milwaukee. He first started with a call for unity, then talked about Saturday's assassination attempt, then pivoting to the economy. Now it appears he is speaking on foreign relations. Coming up in just a few minutes, hear how Donald Trump described that assassination attempt in his own words. That's in just a few minutes right here at the Live Desk. Well, NASA canceling its Viper rover project over skyrocketing expenses and launch delays. The plan was to explore the moon's south pole in search of water. The original launch date was scheduled for late last year, but extra testing kept delaying that mission. NASA now says they've been wasted about $450 million in its development. In a statement, they say the decision has nothing to do with the quality of the work done, but it is solely based on budgetary concerns. Now, it may not be a total failure, especially economically. They intend to scrap it for parts and use it on future missions. And the space agency sharing this brand new image, never before seen, of pure sulfur crystals found on Mars. The image here of the newly discovered rock shows crushed material with yellow crystals.
The national debt is expected to be more than $56 trillion in the next 10 years. I am back with Janae Bowens from the Fact Check team. When was the last time that the government spent less than it made?
Didi, it's been a long time. I'm talking fiscal year 2001. That was the last time we saw a surplus. Every year since then, the U.S. has spent more than it took in. We are expected to have a $1.9 trillion deficit this year alone.
Clearly an ongoing issue, but I think a lot of people want to know why this long.
Right. So I got my hands on a report from the Peter G. Peterson Foundation and found the major drivers of our national debt include, of course, the government not bringing in enough money to pay our bills, rising healthcare costs, and an aging population.
Right, that's a big one. Healthcare, how much is being spent on that?
Right, so we spend almost double the amount compared to the global average. We spend nearly $13,000 per person per year, and that's according to that report. Now, this also is influenced by the demographic change. The large baby boomer generation is getting older, retiring, and living longer. Take a look at this graph, though. In 2010, there were just 40.5 million seniors. By 2070, it's projected to be 96.9 million seniors. And Didi, this all means more money is needed for not only Social Security, but Medicaid and Medicare, which of course increase those healthcare costs.
Yeah, no doubt. And we will continue to be watching to see if a balanced budget can be worked out. A lot to consider, Janae. For more on this Fact Check team topic, including links to their sources, scan the QR code on your screen or visit thenationaldesk.com.
Former President Trump's long-awaited RNC speech tonight. A few of the highlights and what he had to say about Saturday's shocking attempted assassination. His words next. Donald Trump in Milwaukee delivering tonight's speech just 5 days after a would-be assassin tried to kill him. He described that traumatic and life-threatening moment, saying, quote, "I'm not supposed to be here tonight." Here's what he said.
There was blood pouring everywhere, and yet, in a certain way, I felt very safe because I had God on my side. And I wanted to do something to let him know I was okay. I raised my right arm, looked at the thousands and thousands of people that were breathlessly waiting, and started shouting, "Fight, fight, fight."
He also talked tonight about the economy, inflation, and America's energy, saying on his first day in office, he will close the border and start drilling.
So tonight, I make this pledge to the great people of America. I will end the devastating inflation crisis immediately, bring down interest rates, and lower the cost of energy. We will drill, baby, drill.
Now, important to note, their prices at the pump are highly dependent on the global oil market, and U.S. oil production has reached a new record high this year, even surpassing output under Trump's administration.
Turning to your money, a new ruling from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau could shield consumers from hidden fees. Apps allowing workers to access their paycheck in advance are now considered loans, requiring them to disclose interest rates and fees up front. Previously, the apps often advertised as free, misleading consumers. At least 5% of American workers used an advanced payment product in 2022.
Major League Baseball eyes a game-changing move, the high-tech tool that calls balls and strikes when it could hit the field. Next, right here at the Live Desk. Major League Baseball hopes to test out robot umpires during spring training next year, making automated ball strike calls part of the game as early as 2026. Now, a couple things to address here. This would only be used when a team challenges a call, not entirely replacing human umps who stand behind the plate. Major League Baseball has been experimenting with the automated ball strike system, or ABS, in the minor leagues since 2019. It calls strikes solely based on where the ball crosses the midpoint of the plate. The league commissioner saying just this week the league is working to iron out some technical issues surrounding the definition of the strike zone before it's even in the testing stages by major league players.
And that is going to do it for us tonight. More coverage of Donald Trump's GOP nomination speech online and on air tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Eastern. Before we go, one last look at America's news and weather now where you live. Good night.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. For the first time in many weeks, the Northeast has low humidity. It's going to be a delightful looking day tomorrow with highs in the 70s and low 80s. Looks like the nice stretch extends into the weekend. Let's take into our Friday first. We're ending out the work week with temperatures starting in the 60s by afternoon. We should be in the 70s and low 80s. Notice the lack of clouds. There might be a few fair weather clouds here and there, but that's about it. Heading into Saturday, we'll have another mostly sunny sky with temps in the 80s. Enjoy.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Heading into the next couple of days, we are mostly dry. Your Thursday evening will end that way. Friday will start out with some clouds, I think, but temperatures will be certainly a lot cooler. Any rain chances to come our way will likely not come until the second part of your Saturday. We may see a couple of showers lingering around. Highs on your Friday only around the mid to upper 80s, and the same for Saturday. Much easier to handle. We are not seeing any high heat to come our way anytime soon.
Good evening, everybody. Meteorologist Michael Ehrenberg with a look at your southeast regional forecast. Overnight low temperatures will be mostly in the 70s, except for 64 there in Nashville. Hot spot 78 in Pensacola and 81 there in the West Palm Beach vicinity. On your Friday, look for hot, humid conditions, spotty showers and storms through the midday hours. There is a look at 4 p.m. Most numerous through parts of Georgia and interior sections of North Carolina. And that looks of showers and storms continuing as we head out into the mid to late part of the evening.
I'm meteorologist Marshall McPeak. High pressure is helping a lot of the Great Lakes in the Ohio River Valley, but parts of the Midwest just cannot get a break. Another chance for strong to severe storms from parts of Kansas up through Nebraska and into the southern Dakotas. It is going to be a little rocky in the afternoon and evening, so make sure you stay weather aware. Sioux City, 81 with thunderstorms. Lincoln, 86. You'll probably get some rain as well. Sunshine in Springfield, South Bend, and Grand Rapids.
Good evening, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. Pretty warm and humid all the way from Brownsville back up into the Dallas, Oklahoma area. Rain showers earlier today turned to sunshine for early in the afternoon. Little weak front will continue to slide southward, kind of stall out a little bit. It'll bring another round of maybe some light showers in the overnight hours toward the early morning. Otherwise, going to be another warm, humid day. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia, and that's a look at your regional weather.
Hi, everybody. I'm Theron Zomba. Look at the forecast for the western United States. Pesky high pressure still in control. We do have some afternoon buildups around the Four Corners area with some monsoon moisture there. Temperatures still in the triple digits in many places. A 111 for Vegas, 105 for Boise, 114 in Phoenix. Cooler out toward the coast with temperatures in the 70s in California, but 90 again in Portland, so still pretty hot in the north.